Hello everyone. The next topic which we will be discussing is about the digestion of the food. So, the process of digestion is when we ingest the food and it is being absorbed by the various organs of the digestive system. For example, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. That is the that is the process of digestion where the food is being absorbed and being digested by the body, and that food will help us to give the energy. Food is organic compound and usually of the plant or the animal origin. So the major components of our food are carbohydrates, proteins and fat, and it contains minerals and vitamins also in the small quantity. So the process of this conversion of complex food substances to simple absorbable forms is called the digestive system. So that is known as the digestive system. The digestive system also absorbs water, vitamins and minerals and eliminates waste from the body. So in this we will be studying about the digestion of food and how this digestion takes place in the mouth, in the stomach, in the small intestine and in the large intestine. So let's start with the first topic of introduction. The digestive system is a series of hollow organs that is joined in a long twisting tube from the mouth to the anus. So from the mouth, the first part, it is the first part where the digestion starts. So mouth from the anus where the assimilation of the waste products is being done. Now inside this lining there is a mucosa, and in the mouth, stomach and small intestine, the mucosa contains tiny glands that will produce juices to help the food to be digested. So this is the main function in the digestion in the mouth. So digestion of food, digestion will take place in the mouth first, which is the first part where the digestion takes place. Then it will comes to the stomach through the food pipe or esophagus. From the stomach, the food will be digested and there will be certain enzymes which will act on the food. After this, it will come into the small intestine where the 90% of the absorption takes place in the small intestine, and all the digestion and absorption takes place in the small intestine. And after this, it will comes into the large intestine where all the ions and amino acids they are being digested. So digestion of food is the first topic. So digestion, as we were telling, as I was telling you, the digestion starts with the mouth first. So it starts in the mouth, means the digestion by the chemical, and the mechanical means starts in the mouth. So chewing breaks up the large food particles and mixes the food with the secretion of the salivary glands. So what is salivary glands? Salivary glands, they are present in the mouth region, which releases the saliva. So saliva that helps in the lubrication of the food, and it will then be pushed to the food pipe. So mucus in the saliva, it helps in the lubrication and adhering the masticated food into the bolus. So the bolus is then propelled into the esophagus by the process of swelling. This process, it is initiated by the voluntary action of collecting the oral contents of the tongue and propelling them backward into the pharynx. This starts with a wave of involuntary contraction in the muscles that will push the material into the esophagus. So the bolus that further passes down through the esophagus by successive waves of muscular contractions, that is known as the peristalsis. Now the digestion of carbohydrates takes place and the digestion of lipids also takes place here. So digestion of carbohydrates involves the involves the hydrolysis of the glycosidic bonds by the addition of the water. So digestion of the carbohydrate starts from the mouth. When the food is chewed, it is mixed with saliva, which contains the digestive enzymes. So that will contain the digestive enzymes that is mainly secreted by the parotid glands. The optimal pH for this enzyme is around 6.7. This enzyme, that alpha amylase, which is an endoamylase, this enzyme hydrolyzes the amylopectin of the starch into the disaccharide maltose, the trisaccharide maltotriose, and alpha limit dextrins and unbranched amylose into the maltose and the maltotriose. So about 30% of the starch is being hydrolyzed in the mouth by these enzymes. Next is the digestion of the lipids. By far, the most abundant lipids of the diet are triglycerides. Each molecule of triglyceride is composed of a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. Fatty acids have varying length and it can be saturated as well as unsaturated. So triglycerides can be distinguished as a fat and oil on the basis of the physical state at the room temperature. Fats which are solid at the room temperature contains large portion of the saturated fatty acids. And oils, they are liquid at the room temperature because of their relatively high unsaturated fatty acid contents. So the usual diet also includes small quantities of the phospholipids, cholesterol and cholesterol esters. So this was about the digestion of the lipids. The next comes from the mouth, the food will come to the stomach through the esophagus. So in stomach, the digestion is both by the mechanical and the chemical means. There is a churning movement of the stomach which makes the food breaks down into the size and responsible for mixing with the gastric juices. So the stomach, they produces the gastric juices which helps in the proper digestion of the food. The stomach, it stores food for about 4 to 5 hours. Several minutes after the food that will enter the stomach, there is a gentle and ripening peristaltic movement which is called as the mixing, and passes over the stomach every 15 to 25 seconds. These waves will macerate the food and mix it with secretions of the gastric glands to produce a thick semi-fluid mass of the partially digested food that is called the chyme, chyme, chyme. So in stomach, what is happening? There is a chemical digestion of the proteins and lipids which occur. Now the digestion of the proteins involves the hydrolysis of the peptide bonds of proteins by the addition of water. Protein digestion begins in the stomach. So there is an enzyme which is called as the pepsin, which is the important protease of the stomach. It initiates the process of the protein digestion. So this enzyme is responsible for the process of the protein digestion. Pepsins are secreted in the form of inactive precursors called pepsinogens, and they are activated by the gastric acids which is present in the stomach itself. Now it is most active at pH 2 and it becomes inactive when it is at pH 5. Next is about the digestion of the lipids. The chief cells of the stomach secrete gastric lipase. It is active under the acidic condition and it shows optimum activity at the pH 6. Gastric lipase together with the lingual lipase comprise of two acidic lipase, and these lipases split triglycerides into fatty acids and monoglycerides. Now digestion in small intestine, it completes the digestion of the carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acid and lipids. So the in digestion of carbohydrates, we will be discussing one line each of these. So the digestion of carbohydrates, there is a pancreatic secretion like saliva, which contains a very small quantity of alpha amylase that is called as the pancreatic amylase. So pancreatic amylase, they hydrolyze starch into the maltose, maltotriose and alpha limit dextrins. So this is how the digestion of carbohydrates takes place in the small intestine. Then about the digestion of the proteins. So most protein digestion occurs in the small intestine, mainly in the duodenum, that is the first entry part of the small intestine, and the jejunum, by the proteolytic enzymes of the pancreas and intestinal mucosa. So major protease that is present in pancreatic enzymes are trypsin, chymotrypsin and proteolactase. So the last digestive stage of the proteins is the intestinal lumen, which is achieved by brush border enzyme synthesized by the enterocytes. So this is how the digestion of proteins takes place in the small intestine. Next is the digestion of the lipids. So although some lipids digestion occurs in the stomach through the action of various lingual and gastric lipase, but most occurs in the small intestine by the pancreatic lipase. So triglycerides, they are broken down by the pancreatic lipase through into fatty acids and monoglycerides. The first step in the fat digestion includes the emulsification of the fat by the bile salts. So emulsification, what is emulsification? Emulsification is the breakdown of fat globules into very small sizes, numerous emulsion droplets, so that the water soluble digestive enzymes can act. So most of the emulsification occurs in the duodenum, which is the first entry part of the small intestine. The next is about the digestion of cholesterol esters and phospholipids. So most cholesterols, they are present in the diet in the form of cholesterol esters, which are the combination of free cholesterol and one molecule of fatty acids. And the digestion of the nucleic acid, where nucleic acid, they are split into nucleotides in the intestine by the pancreatic nucleases, and pancreatic juice contains two nucleases, that is ribonuclease, which digests the RNA, and deoxyribonuclease, which digests the DNA. So these nucleosides are split into their constituents, sugars and purines and pyrimidines, bases by the nucleosidases. So this was about the digestion of the nucleic acids in the small intestine. Next is about the digestion in the large intestine, which is the final stage of the digestion, which occurs in the colon of large intestine through the activity of bacteria that inhibit the lumen. Mucus is secreted by the glands of the large intestine, but no digestive enzymes are secreted. Bacteria ferment remaining carbohydrates present in the chyme, and they release gases such as hydrogen, carbon dioxide and methane. So these gases, they contribute to flectus, which is a gas in the colon that is termed as flatulence when it is excessive. So the smell is largely due to sulfides such as hydrogen sulfide, dimethyl sulfide. Bacteria, they convert any remaining protein to amino acids and break the amino acids into the simpler substances. So this is how the digestion in the large intestine takes place. So this was all about the digestion process in the various organs of the digestive system. Thank you.